I love how I said I'm not going to yap about these books too much, and exactly what am I doing is yapping about these books too much. Hello, hello, hello. It is still my birthday. It is still snowing outside, but I changed my shirt and I kind of changed my hair so that I can film a new video. If you are new here, please subscribe. If you're not new, and I've literally posted like 2 videos at this point. So if you're not new, welcome back. Thank you for watching. And I'm going to get into all the books I rated 5 stars in 2024. Now, I am very generous with my 5 star rating. I will say I have read over 100 books this year. Most of them are 4 stars, so they're really good books, but I feel like I would change something about them. These are my 5 out of 5. Probably would not change a thing about them. Maybe didn't love, like if there are 2 books in a series, I probably didn't love one of them more than the other, but I still think it's a 5 star read, right? So I am going to get into all of the books that I rated 5 stars in the year of our Lord 2024. And I will be going in order that I read them, if that makes any sense. Because my previous video, I talked about my top 10 books of the entire year, and those were random, right? Those were read at different times. So the first book I read in the entire year of 2024, I think it was like January 4th I read this, but I read The Inmate by Frida McFadden, and this was my very first 5 star read of 2024. This book follows a psychiatrist who takes a job at the prison, and one of the inmates is very dangerous and she has a past with him. And yeah, really good book. 5 out of 5 read. I have read a whole lot of Frida McFadden books, and a whole lot of Frida McFadden books will be in this video. I do need to branch out and read more thriller slash mystery authors, which I've been doing a little bit in 2024, but I will do more in 2025. But I remember just like eating up this book and most of the Frida McFadden books that I read this year. Also in January, I read Kiss Her Once for Me, and this was such a cute little romance. Like, I read it in January. I probably would have enjoyed reading it in December more because it's kind of like a Christmas story. So this book follows Ellie, and she meets Jack or Jacqueline one day around Christmas time. They have a fantastic day together and they part ways. I thought it was really cute and I really enjoyed this book, and I want to read more by Alison Cochrane, and I have not seen more by her, and I'm looking forward to it. One of the first books that I read in February was One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. Casey McQuiston has become one of my favorite authors, I would say. Let me also give you a little hint into my brain. I don't remember anything that happens in books. I just remember the feeling that I had, and I felt really, 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 really happy reading this book. These 2 girls meet on a train. It's really cute. There's some time jumping. It is really, 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 really. But Casey McQuiston, I have another book by Casey McQuiston in this stack of books. Her writing just makes you feel good. You know, it's like a feel good romance type. Next in February, I read The Wife Upstairs by Frida McFadden, and it is exactly what it sounds like. There's a wife. She is bedbound or housebound, and you get to find out why she is there, and some other crazy stuff is happening. But a lot of Frida McFadden books, I have gotten to know her writing, so I can kind of sense what the twist will be. That was also another good read, easy 5 star read of 2024. And then immediately after that, I think I read The Ex, also by Frida McFadden, and that was also a 5 star read. You think the story is going one way, and then you kind of find out it's not. And that is one of the reasons why I love Frida's books, is because I was like, well, I know exactly what's happening. And then the book says, no, you don't. That was a 5 star read. Again, don't ask me what it's about. I read it in February. I barely remember what I had for breakfast today. So the next book I read in February that I gave a 5 star read was The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This writing duo has my heart. I have not hated a book by Christina Lauren yet. So I live in Minnesota. So Olive and Amy are twins, and Amy's getting married. And on the day they were supposed to leave, Amy and her husband get sick. So Olive needs to take this vacation along with the best man, Ethan, who they do not like each other. And they end up in the same hotel. And of course, sparks fly. It's really cute. It's not very spicy, but it's so cute. I remember because they came back, they live in Minnesota. When they came back, I was like, oh my goodness, I know that neighborhood. But yeah, I love this book. It was like a really cute rom-com, and February was the perfect month to read this because it was absolutely adorable. Next up in February, I also read Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. I don't remember what the book was about, but I remember really loving it. Also in February, I read Never Lie by Frida McFadden. This is one of my top 10 books of the entire year. Newlyweds, they find their dream home that used to belong to a psychiatrist, and Trisha is the wife, and she finds the stack of audio recordings that Dr. Adrienne Hill has been keeping on all of her patients, and the story gets wackadoo, and it's really good. And this was a really good read. Like, again, in my top 10 of 2024. After that, or probably not directly after, but I also read The Silent Patient. So this follows a woman who kills her husband and stops talking completely. And the doctor, his name's Theo, he's trying to get into her mind. He's trying to figure out why she killed her husband. I will also say the first half of this book, super duper slow. I want to read more by this author, but I've heard his other books aren't as good, which is really, really sad because I love the writing in this. I loved how it was like building up and just like everything exploded. Really good book, 5-star read of 2024. Next would be Miss Colleen Hoover. Heartbones made me sob. This book follows Bea. She has a death in the family and she goes to this beach thing. She meets Samson, sparks fly. There are some books that I've read this year that I genuinely am like, I don't cry in books. I don't cry in movies. Forget all that. Sobbing. Last year in 2023, when I read Ugly Love, sobbing. I love Colleen Hoover, and everyone has their opinions. I think her books are very, very easy to get through, and I love that. Especially her romance books. I think they're just like, most of them, not all. Most of them are really like cute. They've got deep topics, and you get to explore that, but it ends up just being like a nice romance. Like this ended up being like a nice, cute romance with some sad, tragic things, and loved this book. Then we go into March and we have another Colleen Hoover book. Verity follows Lowen, who needs a job, and she gets a job ghostwriting for this dude's wife. Her name is Verity. So she basically moves into this family's home so she can learn more about Verity, so she can ghostwrite Verity's books. Yeah. This was the first thriller that I read by Colleen Hoover, and I will be honest, I was not expecting anything because I've read her rom-coms, right? I read her romance books. I read It Ends With Us, It Starts With Us. I read those, and I was not expecting to love this book as much as I did. And oh my goodness, I loved this book. And again, Colleen's writing is very simple to follow, and some spots in this book I was like, and at the end I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Another book I read in March and I absolutely adored. First of all, why are these covers so flipping cute? A Not So Meet Cute, it's book 1 of the Kane Brothers series. I didn't really care for book 2 and I need to read book 3. Lottie decides she's gonna troll a rich neighborhood so she can run into a rich dude and get married. There's fake dating. It's not supposed to be a cute book, but it was an adorable book. It was very, very cute. I will read the third one because I think I'm gonna like that better. But yeah, each book follows one of the Kane brothers, and I love it. I loved this book. Again, so funny, like kicking my feet up, giggling, laughing, so funny. 5-star read. Also in March, I read a couple more Frida books. I read a lot of Frida McFadden books in March, but 2 5-star reads were Do Not Disturb by Frida McFadden and Ward D by Frida McFadden. I've also noticed Frida likes to have a lot of like psychology, psychiatrist, brain doctors in her books, and I'm here for it. In April, I read The Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walter. I remember thinking that was such a good, again, I go by feelings, and I was obsessed with the feeling I had after reading that book. Sometimes I hate almost like insta-love tropes, but I thought that was done really well. Next in April, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. And that is also one of my top 10 books of 2024. If you've seen that video, it's the one that I uploaded previously. Yeah, so Addie LaRue makes a deal with the devil 300 years ago. So nobody remembers her. She walks into a store and the dude remembers her. And she's like, whoa, what is happening? But yeah, that was such a beautiful book to read. Again, V.E. Schwab, she has my heart. And I need to read more books by her. Also in April, I read Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. I am trying to remember mystery/thriller books that I have loved more than Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Besides like a lot of Frida McFadden books, but that was such a good book. Also in April, I read Red, White, and Royal Blue. Like I said, Casey McQuiston quickly becoming one of my favorite authors because I it's so cute. First Son, Prince of England. Like, come on now. I eat up the LGBT qua that she provides to us. I love it. Love it. Love it. Then we go to May, and surprisingly, The Midnight Library. I would say this is kind of like a magical realism, right? Like, I wouldn't say it's really fantasy, but it's also like there's some magic in it. This was such a good book because I was like chasing the clock with Nora as she was going through the Midnight Library, right? I was like following along like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? Such a good book. Such a good book. Also in May, I read The Wife Between Us by Greer Hendricks and Sarah. I can't say her last name. This was a little bit of a shocking book for me. I don't remember when I found it, but I love browsing Target, y'all. When I go to get groceries, I always end up in the book section and I'm always leaving with a book, even though I only went to get groceries. The back of this book literally says, when you read this book, you will make many assumptions. I did. You will assume you're reading about a jealous ex-wife. I did. You will assume she's obsessed with her replacement, a beautiful younger woman who's about to marry the man they both love. I did. You will assume you know the anatomy of this tangled love triangle. I did. And then it says, assume nothing. Again, so good. So good. Like, shockingly good. Like, the twists, so good. Also in May, so I believe April, May is when I started the ACOTAR series and dove into that world. And May was when I started A Court of Mist and Fury, My Love, My Beautiful, Rysand and Farah. Oh my goodness. I have too many words about this book and the series in general. So I'm just going to say top 5 read. Top 5 reads of 2025. I think at the end of May, I also read 7 Days in June. Also in my previous video of the top 10 reads of 2025, Eva and Shane. So good. So good. I love books by Black authors. I love books by Black women. Saying as I am a Black woman, getting into their heads as they were younger and as they're older. So good. So good. Oh my goodness. Okay, so that was May. Then we go into June and They Both Die at the End by Mr. Adam Silvera. This is also in my top 10 reads of 2024 because you think the author is going to say, oh, they both die at the end, and then they don't. No, they do. They both die at the end. And I was so upset, but also so happy with the ending. Mateo and Rufus, so good. So good. Such a good book. I love how I said I'm not going to yap about these books too much, and exactly what am I doing is yapping about these books too much. Anyway, also in June, I read Delilah Green Doesn't Care, Ashley Herring Blake. I'm trying to remember what that book was even about. I remember I loved it, which is why I rated it a 5-star. I am not a book review channel, by the way, guys. Like, if you're looking for in-depth book reviews, maybe I'll do those in the future. But I, again, barely remember what I had for breakfast, let alone remembering what I read in June. Next, also in June, or end of June, I think, I read My Other Baby. Number 1 book for me, I would say. The number 1 book. This was in my previous video. It is in my top 10. It is my top 1, I would say, of 2024. I have such a love-hate relationship with SJM. I have a love-hate relationship with SJM's books, but Wings and Ruin has my heart. I want to reread just Mist and Fury and Wings and Ruin. Like, that is all I care about in the ACOTAR series. Anyway, so that was June, and for some reason I was in a reading slump. This is the reason. And between June and October, I read quite a few books, including one of the books that I was really, really disappointed in, and that will be in my next video when I talked about the books that I was really disappointed in 2024. So I had no 5-star reads until October. For 3 months, I had no 5-star reads because I think I was just in such a reading slump and also so disappointed by some of the books that I read in those 3 months. So in October, I was obsessed. I love Frida McFadden books because they're also kind of like a palate cleanser. So if you're reading books and you're just like, ugh, they're dragging on, a Frida book will get you out of that. So in October, I read The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden. I think it came out this year. You think you know the boyfriend that she's talking about, and you don't. So that was such a good book. Rated a 5-star read. I think that is the end of the Frida McFadden books because I read a lot of Frida McFadden books this year. I should probably count how many I read. I'm not going to do it right now, but I read a lot of Frida McFadden books this year and most of them were 4s and 5 stars. Anyway, so in November, I got into my fantasy era, but before that, I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is also one of the books that was really hyped up on TikTok, and I dragged my feet to read this. Like, I was like, I don't want to read it. I'm going to hate it because everybody loves it, and I love it too. YA thriller, so good. Pip decides to write her paper or senior thesis, whatever, on this murder that's a cold case now in her small town. So good, so good. I need to read the next book. I'm going to read that in 2025, but I remember like flying through this. Also in November, I read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. That is also in my top 10 books of 2024. After that, I read Fourth Wing by Miss Rebecca Yarros, also in my top 10 books of 2024. After that, I read Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, also in my top 10. Just kidding. This was not in the video, but I also rated this 5 stars. I am obsessed with fantasy books, and I am obsessed with listening to fantasy books because also in December, we are now in December, by the way, I listened to Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. Both were 5-star reads for me. I am obsessed with listening to fantasy books now, and I think I need to do more of it in 2025 because I love to read, don't get me wrong, Kindle or physical book, I love it, but I also love an audiobook when I'm cleaning and doing chores and running around. So yeah, I need to do more listening to fantasy books in 2025 because it's like you're in another world, which you are, but it's like, it's so good. It is so good. Anyway, it's only December 19th, so I may have some more 5-star reads. So who knows if this will be updated, and maybe next year I will make another 5-star reads of 2025, but start on December 19th, you know, so it's December 19th through December 19th. You know what I mean? Thank you so much for watching this video. I have obviously loved reading this year. I read over 100 books, obsessed with most of them. Some of them were meh, some of them were duds, some of them were disappointments, but I love to read and I love to share my love of reading and other hobbies. So thank you so much for watching this video. I apologize for me literally not being able to describe anything because I barely remember anything, but thank you for being here and thank you for enjoying the day with me. Thank you for spending my birthday with me. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.